they're qualified to do it and they're actually likely to successfully have their application granted. So the first prerequisite is that for almost everybody, except for certain military veterans who served during certain periods of wartime, almost everybody else has to be a green card holder, a legal permanent resident of the United States, before they can apply for citizenship. Typically, you have to hold the green card for 5 years. You are allowed to apply 90 days early. If you are married to a United States citizen, and you've been married to them for 3 full years, and you've been living together for 3 full years, and they've been a citizen for 3 full years, then you're allowed to apply once you've held your permanent resident card for 3 years, and you can apply 90 days early. The 90 days only applies to the length that you've been a permanent resident. It does not apply to how long your spouse has been a citizen or how long you've been married to them. You have to have 3 full years of marriage, 3 full years as them being a citizen, and 3 full years of living together. So generally, when I'm doing the training, I'm going to be talking about 5 years. The same rules apply to the 3-year period. So I might say the 3 or 5 year period. Again, for most people, it's going to be 5 years unless they happen to meet the spouse of a citizen requirement. Let me amend what I just said. They have to be a citizen for 3 whole years, and you have to have been married for 3 whole years. The living with them could actually be subject to the 90 days because you might have arrived in the United States. They might have gone to, say, Thailand, gotten married, and then petitioned you to come over. And so you've been married more than 3 years, they've been a citizen the whole time. The living with them is subject to the 90-day grace period, just like the resident status is. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on that marital issue later. So the other point I want to make under topic 1 here is that you have to be at least 18 years old to apply for citizenship yourself. If you're under 18, the only way that you can be a U.S. citizen is through one or both of your parents. So if somebody comes in and they're 17 and a half years old and neither one of their parents is a citizen, they're stuck. They can't apply to become a citizen themselves, no matter how long they've had their green card, because they're not yet 18. So the only way that they could get citizenship would be to encourage one of their parents to apply, and if the parent in fact is qualified, and if the parent in fact is granted citizenship before the child turns 18, and the child has a green card, and the child lives with that parent who has become a citizen, then the child will become a citizen at the same time as the parent. So you've got your green card, you're under 18, you live with your biological parent who is a U.S. citizen, then you are a U.S. citizen, provided that you're born after February 26, 1983. So anybody who's still under 18 today would certainly have been born after 83. So if you're under 18, you don't use the N-400 form, which is the form we're going to talk about today. If you're under 18, only your parents can get you citizenship, and provided that you, in fact, have become a citizen through your parents, if you want proof of that, you have 2 choices. You can apply for a United States passport, or you can file Form N-600, which is a request to be issued a certificate of citizenship. So I don't think on this trip you're going to be dealing much with N-600s, because the goal is to work with people who are green card holders and help them become U.S. citizens, rather than finding people who are already citizens and helping them get documentation of that. But if somebody asks you, if they say, oh, I heard after I become a citizen, my 9-year-old daughter, who has a green card like me, is going to get citizenship too. What do I do after that? Then you tell them, well, you'll need to file Form N-600, or you can apply for a United States passport. But that parent has to get their citizenship first. Okay? It's a little more complicated if the parents are divorced and there's custody issues, but if the parent has at least joint custody and the kid does live with them at least part of the time and has a green card and is under 18 and that parent is a citizen, the child will still be recognized as having become a citizen along with the parent. Any questions? Yes?
What about adopted children?
Oh, thank you. I meant to mention that. This rule applies to biological children. It also will apply to adopted children if the child was formally, officially adopted before age 16. So, yes, it does apply to adopted children. It does not apply to stepchildren unless the stepchild was also formally adopted by the stepparent, which does happen in some cases. So biological children or children who are officially adopted before their 16th birthday. Any questions about anything else I've said so far? Okay. In order to apply, this next requirement's a holdover from the old days when you had to apply to a district court to become a citizen, and they did it in background investigation, and you had to bring in witnesses to testify about your moral character. You have to live in the same district of Citizenship and Immigration Services for at least 3 months before you file your citizenship application. Now, that requirement at this point is almost meaningless, because if you have lived in one place for at least 3 months and then you file your application, then you move halfway across the country, they just transfer your application. So you might wonder why you have to live in one place for 3 months before filing. There's no longer any real reason for that, but it's still there in the law, and so they do enforce that. We actually did find one person whose application was denied because they had applied 2.5 months after moving into the district where they were interviewed. So generally, if somebody has moved within one county, they are in the same USCIS district. So if I moved from Oakland to San Leandro, it's not a problem. If I moved from Alameda County to San Francisco County, it's not a problem. They're all in the same district. But if I move from Alameda County to Solano County, that's in a different district. That's in the Sacramento district. So if you see that a person has moved, when you're filling out the application, there's a history of residence for the last 5 years. If you see that they moved in the last 3 months from one city to another, check to see that they're both in the same county. And if they're in different counties, you'll have to double check whether they're in the same USCIS district. If you really wanted to do that, you would go to uscis.gov, click on field offices, or USCIS locations, and then choose field offices. And each field office subpage has a list of all the counties that it covers. So if both the old county and the new county are on the list for the same district, you're okay. This probably won't come up, but if it does, you want to make sure again that they're not wasting their $675 if they just need to wait, another month or two. You could even still fill out their application and let them know if nothing else changes, go ahead and mail this in 2 months if they've recently moved into a new district. Now, the physical presence requirement is really simple. That's also under heading 2 here. You have to be physically inside the United States for at least half of the last 5 years for most people, or 3 years if you're using the spouse of a citizen rule, before filing your application. They also evaluate that as of the date of your interview and as of the date you get sworn in. So if somebody is coming into the United States and staying here 2 or 3 months and leaving for 3 or 4 months and then coming back for 2 or 3 months, if they keep doing that over and over, by the end of the 5 years, they've got 65% of their time outside the U.S. and 35% inside, and they're not going to qualify for citizenship generally. There are a few exceptions, not anything you're likely to run into unless you're dealing with a military veteran. If you're abroad solely to serve in the U.S. military or as the employee of the U.S. government, or in certain cases as the dependent spouse of a military